Hey guys, it's Carol again. This is going to be a bit of a different series than anything else that's on the channel. What's up so far as of this recording is the writer's toolkit, which is still in progress. There's still one more video that I need to shoot. And the We Are Mature and Responsible Adults with Lizzie. That video has a little bit of a preview of what this series is going to be. It's not what you think it might be based on the title. This is going to be for those of you out there who have the same sort of issues that I do. The long and short of it is I have ulcerative colitis. It's a very unpleasant autoimmune disease wherein your intestines kind of try to eat themselves. So my main symptom of when I have a flare is that I have blood in my stool. It's not pleasant. It is terrifying the first time it happens. And unfortunately I've actually lost quite a few friends because of the fact that they could not handle all of the changes that I was going through. This is not an easy topic to discuss, particularly because of the fact that a lot of the details are sort of taboo to talk about in Western society. We don't talk about bowel movements outside of your typical, like, oh, I took a huge dump kind of jokes. But this is a disease that is still not very well understood. All we know for sure is that if I'm having a flare, I need to avoid whole grains and fried food. Fried food I should be avoiding anyway. Whole grains, for me, taste too bitter to be enjoyable in the first place. But there's not really all that much that is definitive about this disease, and it sucks. And this hopefully will maybe give somebody else out there who's just recently been diagnosed a bit of an idea of what they're in for and a bit of an idea of what to expect beyond taking pills every day and having to get colonoscopies multiple times before you're of age to be doing that. This episode will start with how I got diagnosed and what the medications I have to take are. Back in 2012, a few months before the world was supposed to end again, I started seeing blood show up in my bowel movements, and I was stressed out. I was definitely scared about what was happening to me, but I also didn't want to tell anybody what was happening to me. Because I'm a youngest child and because I had anger management issues as a kid, I was really... I describe it as being a dimmer switch versus a light switch person. With dimmer switch you have the variations in light levels, whereas with a light switch it's just on or off. I am a very light switch person. So I kind of over-repress my emotions at times, and because I'm the youngest, I got this sort of psychological imperative to prove that I'm as strong as everybody else. So I hid what was happening to me for about 6 weeks, maybe 7. And it ended up being something that the ER doctors could not figure out what it was, because it was, on first glance, I looked fine. I appeared healthy, I appeared normal, I could fake it real well, but ultimately we had to go to a gastroenterologist, and about a month after my 22nd birthday, I had my first colonoscopy. Now, for those of you whose parents have had colonoscopies, or if you've had the unfortunate situation of having one yourself, you know you want to get that prep done right the first time because it sucks. It is awful. The prep for a colonoscopy actually starts about a week and a half before the procedure itself, and as you get closer during that week and a half, you cut more and more out of your diet. So by the time you get to the day before, you only have clear liquids. That means water, that means clear sport drinks, like I tend to favor Propel, just a holdover from when I was a lot more active than I am now. You can have Jello as long as there's no red dye number 40 in it, and that is because red dye number 40 does not dissipate or change at all when it goes through your digestive tract. It still comes out the exact same color. If any of you have binged on red vines or something like that, and have eaten enough for it to change the color of your bowel movements, you know what I'm talking about. It just all comes out the exact same color it went in. But you have the clear liquid diet the day before, and then at about 6 o'clock p.m. you start doing the laxative prep. The laxative preparation is supposed to flush every last bit out of your system. Nothing in your stomach, nothing in your colon, nothing in your small intestine, nothing. The flavor, on the other hand, regardless of whether you put a flavor pack in it or not, it makes me gag and almost throw up every single time. It is extremely unpleasant, and that's before you even go into the doctor's office. For a colonoscopy, if you are an otherwise healthy person like I am, they tend to put you under anesthesia during the procedure. If you have sleep apnea like my mother does, they only do a local anesthetic or something to that effect. I can't imagine it being very pleasant, but either way, you come out of the procedure and you still feel like crap, and then you have to rebuild all of the bacteria that's supposed to be in your gut. You have to take it slow and putting food back into your system. I've made the mistake of eating something too complex too fast after, and have promptly thrown it up because my system couldn't handle it. But we came back about a week or two after the procedure, and the pathology came back and it said ulcerative colitis. So I had to get onto a couple of medications immediately. The one that I take every day no matter what is sulfasalazine. Now, it's a control medication, so it sort of limits the symptoms that I have, or at least it tries to. When my intestines win over the sulfasalazine and get into a flare, then I have to take prednisone. Now, anybody who has watched the TV show House has probably heard of prednisone. It's a steroid, so that automatically makes it so that I can't be an Olympian or any of that, even if I wasn't already broken to begin with. But I took the liberty of taking down some notes on what the side effects are of these two medications, as well as the one that I'm going to get to in a second. For sulfasalazine, the side effects include stomach upset, have it, nausea and vomiting, have it, loss of appetite, not quite, but it kind of fluctuates anyway, headache, yep, dizziness, yep, unusual tiredness, I have been exhausted and unable to sleep for the past 3 years, yeah, I've got that, aching joints, had that since I was 12, back, leg, and stomach pains, again, I've had that since I was 12, chills, you'll notice I'm wearing a sweatshirt, it's late March, it's fairly warm outside, still too cold, unusual bleeding and bruising, and muscle aches, pain, and stiffness. Now, I have been an active person since I was about 6. 1 year of TAP, 3 years of springboard diving, 8 years of fencing, and see, 7 years now of partner dance. But over the past 2 or so, I've really fallen off and haven't been able to get back out there and do it. As for the unusual bleeding and bruising thing, I don't know if the camera can really see it, but I've got a bruise there, I have another one there. I have no idea where they came from. I don't know where most of my bruises come from anymore. As my dear sweet boyfriend Michael says, I bruise like a banana, and that is actually an absurdly accurate simile. On the prednisone side of things, which I'm currently on because I've had a flare, we have another nausea and vomiting. We have loss of appetite, which seems really funny to me because loss isn't exactly the word that I'd use for that. It's more loss of control of your appetite. It's one day you want to eat absolutely everything you can see, the next you want to eat absolutely nothing. And it's really difficult to put up with that and to deal with it, especially because you start to crave things like highly processed sugar, highly processed vegetables, all that sort of thing. And it's really not healthy. It's not what you should be eating most of the time anyway, but it's what your body can handle. So I eat a lot more plain potato chips when I have a flare than anything else, just because it's something that won't hurt my stomach. We have heartburn, which I was dealing with yesterday and the night before. We have trouble sleeping, which I've had consistently since I started getting flares. Increase in sweating or acne. Probably see little red dots all over my face because I don't use concealer. You get more muscle pain and cramps, which is fantastic for somebody like me who has messed up literally everything except her left elbow. Irregular heartbeat I don't really get. I do get some weakness. I don't get a lot of undue swelling. Like if my knee is hurting, it'll probably swell up. But, you know, it is what it is. Unusual weight gain, which the last flare that I had in July or August, I think it was, of 2015, I gained about 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Going right back to that loss of control of appetite thing. And bone pain, like, since I've been diagnosed, I've been able to tell the difference between muscle pain, joint pain, bone pain, and organ pain. That is a lot more variation than most people see. Like, a lot of people have been sore. I'm pretty sure everybody has been. A lot of people have, like, twisted an ankle or something and had the swelling pain and the joint pain from that. A stubbed toe. But most people haven't had to deal with quite the same variation that I have. Because on top of those 4, there's also tendon pain and nerve pain that I've also experienced. Tendon pain is more common among athletes. Nerve pain, on the other hand, that's where my migraines come from. That's what I have to deal with. And it's not fun. And when you have ulcerative colitis, you can't have NSAID pain medications. This means you can't have the big 2 of aspirin or ibuprofen. Those will just damage your stomach faster. And since aspirin is actually a blood thinner, it'll make it even easier than it already is to bleed and to bruise. But there is exactly one over-the-counter medication that somebody with ulcerative colitis can have, and that's Tylenol. In my experience, Tylenol is only good if you have a fever. That is it. It does not help me with my pain whatsoever. I would have to take the entire bottle probably to feel any pain reduction, and that's just unacceptable to me. Instead, I got my gastroenterologist to prescribe me some pain meds because of the migraines that I get on a unfortunately fairly regular basis. So the one that I take is tramadol. It's very effective, but really uncomfortable to take. Yeah, it'll deal with the pain, but all three of the medications that I have cause nausea and vomiting. The tramadol also causes constipation, which is not helpful at all to everything else that I have. It causes lightheadedness and dizziness, which to me feels like an understatement as somebody who knows how to spot her turns and can therefore do multiple turns. I think my record was like 25 in a row without getting dizzy. Causes drowsiness, which I have actually found to be false. Like, I actually get worse sleep when I've taken pain meds. And it can also cause a headache, which is hilarious to me just because of the fact that I take it for migraines. But I have to deal with a lot of monitoring of my vitals, like a lot more than most people. I have to be far more aware of the progression of food through my stomach and intestines. I have to constantly be checking my bowel movements for signs of blood, because if I don't, then I will probably have to go on the prednisone for longer. If you catch a flare early enough, you can do what's called a bolus taper, which is what I'm in the middle of right now. You start with, let's see, what is it? 40 milligrams on the first day, and you decrease by 5 milligrams for the next 7. So I basically started my bolus taper on Wednesday of last week, and I am doing fairly well. The bleeding has lessened, so hopefully that means it'll be cleared up by this Wednesday. But if it's not, then I have to get a refill and do another bolus taper. And if that one doesn't work, I have one more shot to get it to work. And if it doesn't, I have to go back on long-term prednisone until it goes away. I've also noticed with the prednisone that I have a decrease in memory capability. And my memory was not great to begin with. Like, I've taken drama classes, I've tried to memorize things. If I'm not doing it for fun, I can't do it. Because of the memory issues that it causes for me, I actually have to organize my meds in one of these for the first dosage each morning of the sulfasalazine, plus that day's amount of prednisone. So I've only got Tuesday and Wednesday left in here, because it's an 8-day cycle, and I started last Wednesday. But this has not been an easy road for me. It has caused a lot of pain. It has caused a lot of weight gain. It has caused a lot of losing the ability or the confidence to go out and do stuff that I used to enjoy. Like, even just going over to a friend's house for the day, I have to plan in advance and psych myself up for it if I'm going to do it. For those of you who've watched the video that I did with Lizzie, that was a shockingly unplanned day. And considering that, it went really well. But I was exhausted and did get a migraine the next day. So it's not an easy disease to deal with. I've been diagnosed with it for about 3.5 years at this point. I am still learning the rules. I am still figuring my shit out. Like I mentioned in the video with Lizzie, I've been hospitalized because of this. And while I did have a bit of a morbid curiosity about what it's like to be hospitalized, that curiosity has been satisfied, and I never want to go back there again. You know, I used to have a large group of friends, and now I have Lizzie, Michael, my boyfriend, and maybe 3 or 4 others who have really stuck with me and really wanted to stay my friend and make sure that I had the support that I needed. I don't necessarily blame any of my old friends for somewhat abandoning me, but at the same time, I feel like they've kind of shown their true colors, and I have found that in spite of everything, they have enough to deal with without having to come with me to the hospital, or come visit me in the hospital, or even just to make sure that I've remembered to take all the doses of my meds every day. Because with the prednisone, I only have to take that once a day. The pain medication, I only have to take that as needed. With the sulfasalazine, though, I have to take it 4 times a day. So that means all 3 meals and right before bed. And it's... You'd think it'd be fairly easy to just remember to do that, but if you have a particularly busy or stressful day, easy has nothing to do with it. There have been days when I have forgotten to take my second dose until about 5 o'clock in the evening. And there's not really a whole lot that I can do about that except to just take the meds and hope for the best. I am working on trying to refine everything that I know. Michael and I went to a conference on what was said to be ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, which is kind of the worst version of ulcerative colitis. But about 85 to 90-ish% of the information they had was specific to Crohn's. So there wasn't a whole lot of information that I got out of that, especially because my mother is very much a science-based person. She loves science, she loves logic, and if anybody has some sort of medical issue, she goes and researches it. So pretty much everything that they said at that conference I had already heard, and it still wasn't good enough to actually give me the information that I needed. And it's not... I'm not trying to make this a downer video or an oh pity me video. There's no point in that. It's more that nobody focuses whatsoever on the social aspect of the impact of what a disease does to a person. It's... I did talk a bit about some of my experience with Lizzie and her perspective on the matter, and still being able to find humor and all of that. But again, she's one of the few who has really stuck by me. And, you know, we mentioned Minjay in that video. He's actually the one who set me up with Michael, and that happened after the diagnosis. So there are very good people in my life. My family is still very loving and very supportive, and they're trying really hard to accommodate my needs as well as they can. But, you know, when the doctors who are supposed to be the experts in this disease have slides in their presentations at a conference about these diseases that say, we don't have the answers to this, that is really disheartening. And for the fact that they focus so much on the science aspect of the entire thing and how we can cure these diseases, which is good. But they don't talk about the coping strategies that their patients use. They don't talk about how hard it is emotionally to go through all of this. And they don't talk about how you can make your friends and family really understand what's going on with you. And I'm hoping that with this series of videos, I can give some sort of idea of the coping strategies that I've tried to employ that I have found that worked fairly well. I just, I really want anybody out there who's like me to know that they're not alone. And I hope that we can get a dialogue started here of how we can come together and what strategies they've used and what diets they've tried and all this other stuff, that we can build a community of people who can help each other out and help each other cope through this difficult and painful disease. You know, there's that quote that's floating around out there that I don't remember who said it, but broken people are dangerous. Broken people are the ones who know that they can survive. So let's just see if we can try to help each other out and make sure that we all survive, huh?